The BRATVA'S ruin. Part 4. The price of love. The cruelest traps are the ones built from the people you cannot leave behind. Chapter 1. The photograph in the car. She looked at it for 3 seconds. 3 seconds in which the car moved through the Moscow night, and the private terminal was 20 minutes ahead, and St. Petersburg was beyond that, and Petrov's injured son was in a hospital bed, and the war that had been building for 2 years was in its first openly declared hour. 3 seconds in which the photograph on her phone, her father's door, her father's face, the gun at his temple held by a hand, cut off at the frame's edge, rearranged everything. She turned the phone face down on her knee. She looked out the window at the city, at the street lamps moving past in amber streaks, at the familiar geography of a Moscow night that looked entirely normal and contained nothing normal at all. Nikolai was looking at her. She could feel his attention shift before she saw it. He had been looking at the road. Now he was looking at her face. "Sofia, there is something I need to tell you," she said. Her voice was level. "And I need you to hear it completely before you respond." He was very still. She turned the phone over and held it out. He took it, looked at the photograph, looked at the message below it. In the dark of the car, his face went through something she watched with full attention. First the assessment, the instant, automatic processing of a man reading a threat, and then beneath it, slower, the thing that was not operational at all. The specific tightening she now knew was what controlled fury looked like on him. He handed the phone back. His voice, when he spoke, was so controlled it was almost a different register than speech. "When did this arrive?" 4 minutes ago. "You waited 4 minutes to tell me." "I told you immediately." "You looked at it for—" "I needed 3 seconds," she said, "to decide not to do the obvious wrong thing." She held his gaze. "The obvious wrong thing being to tell you to stop the car and let me go back alone." He held her gaze in the dark. "You considered it." "For approximately 2 of the 3 seconds, yes." She kept her voice level. "Then I decided it was exactly what Marek designed for, and I was not going to do it." She paused. "And I told you." The car moved through the city. The driver, one of Andrei's men, was a wall of professional discretion in the front seat. "He has 3 of your people, and your team is en route to St. Petersburg," she said. "He has my father, and the message says to come back alone, which means he has calculated that you would prevent me from going back alone. He has engineered a situation where every available option produces something he can use." She paused. "Except one." "Tell me." "We go to St. Petersburg," she said, "and we send someone to my father's house. Not me, not you, Andrei, or whoever Andrei has in the city who can reach Presnensky in the next 20 minutes. We tell my father what's happening, and we extract him before Marek's people can establish that I'm not coming back alone." Nikolai was already on the phone. She turned back to the window and breathed. She allowed herself 10 seconds of the fear she was not showing. The specific, cold, personal fear of seeing her father's face with a gun at his temple, and knowing that the man holding it was there because of her. Because she existed. Because Marek had run out of every other option and had gone back to the beginning and found the one person she couldn't calculate away. 10 seconds, she counted them. Then she put the fear in its container and turned back to the situation. "Andrei has a team at Presnensky," Nikolai said, lowering the phone. His voice still had the controlled quality, but something beneath it had changed. 7 minutes. "Good. Sofia." "We keep moving," she said. "We go to St. Petersburg. Andrei handles the house." She met his eyes. "Marek's move was designed to split us. If we split, he wins. If we don't split, his move fails and he's used his last piece of leverage." She paused. "He doesn't have anything left after this. He's been escalating for 2 weeks and every escalation has cost him. This is the last card." Nikolai looked at her for a long moment. The car moved. The city passed. "You are," he said quietly, "the most remarkable person I have ever known." She held his gaze. "I know," she said, and turned back to the window because if she kept looking at his face right now, she was going to feel things that would compromise the operational clarity she needed for the next 4 hours. 10 seconds, she used them. Then she took out her case notes and started reviewing the Petrov file. Chapter 2. Andrii 8 TPRSNNSKY. The call came 11 minutes later. Not from Andrei, from her father. His voice, when she answered, had the quality of a man who has just been through something and is attempting to manage how much of it he reveals to his daughter. Sofia, a pause. There were men here. I know, Papochka. She kept her voice even. Are you all right? I am. A longer pause. There are now different men here, large men with better coats. A pause. One of them told me you sent them. Yes, stay with them. Go wherever they tell you to go. Sofia, what? I will explain everything when I see you. Go with Andrei's men, don't argue with them. She paused. I love you. She hung up. Nikolai was watching her. He's safe, she said. He nodded. Something in his face was doing the thing she associated with managed relief. She saw all of this. She did not comment on it. How long before we land in St. Petersburg? She said. 1 hour and 15 minutes from Wheels Up. Then I need you to brief me again on Petrov's son. She set her case notes aside. Everything you know about their relationship, father and son, not professional, personal. He looked at her. Why? Because if we arrive at a hospital where a man's child is in surgery, the meeting we have will be personal before it is professional. The professional relationship depends on the personal one. She met his eyes. I need to know who Alexei Petrov is to his father before I know what to say to Grigory. Nikolai held her gaze for a moment. Then he began. Chapter 3, SD, Petersburg. The city received them at 2 in the morning with the particular cold clarity of a northern winter night. The hospital was a private facility in the center of the city. Nikolai's driver moved through empty streets with the efficiency of a man who had arranged his route before the flight. At the main entrance, standing with the rigid posture of a man who has been standing in one place for hours and refuses to sit, was Grigory Petrov. He was 60 years old and he looked 90. This was the specific terror that existed below all other terrors for a parent, the terror that your child will not outlast you. He saw the car. He watched them get out. He watched Sofia come toward him. Mr. Petrov, she said. She stopped close. How is he? Grigory Petrov looked at her. His eyes had the redness of hours of holding something that would not be held. In surgery, he said. Still. What are they saying? That they will know more when they are finished. He paused. He is strong. Alexei is strong. He is 26, she said. And strong, that is a significant combination. Something in Grigory's face, a fractional release. He turned to look at Nikolai, and the look was layered. Thank you for coming, Grigory said. We came immediately, Nikolai said. I know, Grigory looked back at Sofia. I know you came from Moscow tonight. A pause. This was not necessary. It was completely necessary, Sofia said. Grigory looked at her for a long moment. There is a waiting room, he said finally. There is coffee that was made approximately 4 hours ago. A pause. It is terrible coffee. Perfect, Sofia said. Show me where it is. Chapter 4, The Waiting Room. The waiting room had the particular suspended time of a space that exists outside the normal passage of hours. She got the coffee. She sat beside Grigory Petrov. Nikolai sat on Grigory's other side. The three of them sat in a row looking at the door to the surgical wing and not speaking for a while. Then Grigory said, he wanted to be an architect. Sofia turned to look at him. When he was young, Grigory's voice had the quality of a man telling a story he has not told to many people. He had these books. He would draw buildings, entire buildings, from memory, from imagination. He was 9, 10 years old, drawing buildings. A pause. I told him, he stopped. I told him there were more important things, more practical things. Another pause. He became practical. He is very good at practical. Something moved through his face. But sometimes I see him look at a building and I think, I took something from him, telling him to be practical. Sofia thought about Anya Vassin, who was studying architecture, who wanted to design bridges. He knows you love him, she said. Grigory looked at her. Does he? You are here, she said simply. At 2 a.m. in a hospital waiting room with terrible coffee. He will know. Grigori was quiet for a moment. Then he said, without looking away from the surgical door, Marek. The word had the quality of something being spat out. He will be dealt with, Nikolai said. I know he will. Grigori's voice was flat. I want to be part of that dealing. You will be, Nikolai said. When Alexei is out of surgery and you know he is going to recover, we need to talk about the agreement, about the consolidation, about what needs to happen in the next 2 weeks to ensure that what Marek tried tonight becomes the reason his organization ends. Grigori turned to look at Nikolai. You are still trying to save the consolidation. I am trying to ensure that Marek does not win the war by winning one engagement, Nikolai said. He attacked your son to break our alliance. The only meaningful response is to demonstrate that it cannot be broken. Grigori looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at Sofia. And you, he said, what do you think? She considered. I think, she said carefully, that agreements made in hospital waiting rooms at 2 a.m. are the strongest kind, because they're made by people who understand what's actually at stake. She paused. I think that if Alexei recovers, and if you and Nikolai remake this agreement tonight not on paper, just between yourselves, as a commitment, then Marek has failed. He attacked your son to prevent a consolidation, and the consolidation survived. She held Grigori's gaze. That would be the appropriate legacy for tonight. Grigori Petrov looked at her for a long, measuring moment. Nikolai, he said, without looking away from her. Yes, Nikolai said. Where did you find her? She was traded for a debt, Nikolai said. Grigori looked at Nikolai with an expression she couldn't fully read, then back to Sofia. A debt, he said. I was told it was also an investment, she said. Was it? Considerably, she said. Grigori almost smiled. It was a fractional thing, gone immediately. The consolidation, he said to Nikolai. We resume the discussions next week. Next week, Nikolai confirmed. In Moscow, at your house. Grigori paused. I want to meet the people at your table. You will. They sat. The coffee was as terrible as advertised. The night moved around the hospital in its silent winter way. At 4:47 in the morning, the surgical doors opened. Chapter 5, Alexei. The surgeon spoke to Grigori with the focused directness of a person delivering news that is good and needs to be delivered clearly, so it is heard. Alexei was out of surgery. The injuries were serious but not fatal. There would be a recovery, weeks, possibly months, but he was alive. He was stable. He was going to be fine. Grigori Petrov, who had been holding himself together for 6 hours, looked at the surgeon for 3 full seconds. Then he put his face in his hands. Sofia looked away. She gave him the privacy of it. Then Grigori straightened. He wiped his face once efficiently. He looked at Nikolai. He looked at Sofia. Coffee, he said. Better coffee, there must be somewhere. There is a place on Nevsky that opens at 5, Nikolai said. Take me there. They went. Chapter 6, Anivieskawai At Dawn. The city at 5 in the morning on the Nevsky Prospect in winter was one of the most beautiful things she had ever seen. The cafe was small and hot and run by a woman who opened before dawn. She looked at the 3 of them and set down cups without being asked. Grigori wrapped both hands around his cup and drank. Then he said, Tell me about Marek, the full picture, not what I've been told by my own people. He looked at Nikolai. What you know. Nikolai told him, comprehensively. The 2-year positioning, the Vasin situation, the Roche intelligence channel, Zurich, all of it, delivered in the flat, precise inventory that she had come to understand as his most honest register. She noticed that he included things he might have chosen to omit, the surveillance operation, the nature of his interest in Sofia, the specific ways in which she had been used as leverage, without being asked. She noticed this. She held it. When Nikolai finished, Grigori was quiet for a long moment. He came at my son, he said, because he knew I would withdraw from the consolidation if he did. Yes. He miscalculated. Yes. I am not a man who withdraws after a move like that. Grigori's voice had the flat certainty of a person stating a structural fact about themselves. I am a man who responds to a move like that. He set down his cup. What do you need to end this? Nikolai looked at him across the table. Access to Marek's Baltic operation, specifically his financial routes through Riga. My people can identify the exact mechanisms if I have cover from your St. Petersburg contacts. Grigori nodded once. Done, he paused. What else? Time. 2 weeks of Marek believing the consolidation is dead, believing his move worked, while we position. I can give you that. Another pause. He has people watching me, my people, my communications. I will be seen to withdraw, publicly. I will make statements through the appropriate channels that the consolidation is dead. A pause. And privately we work. Privately, Nikolai confirmed. Grigori looked at Sofia. You are a lawyer. Yes. I want you to look at something. A document Marek's people sent last month, a proposed restructuring of the Eastern Baltic supply routes that I was told was a standard commercial proposal. He paused. It never felt right. I want a second opinion. She looked at him. Send it to me. Today. Today, she said. Grigori studied her for a moment. The dawn was coming through the cafe window now. Nikolai, he said. Yes. You have made an excellent marriage. He said it with the particular gravity of a man who chose his words carefully and meant each of them. I mean that as the highest possible compliment. Something happened in Nikolai's face, the specific fractional change she had been studying for 2 months. I know, he said, and looked at her. She looked at her coffee. She was smiling. She allowed it. Chapter 7, The Flight Back. She slept on the return flight. She had not intended to. And then somewhere over the landscape between St. Petersburg and Moscow, she stopped existing for approximately 40 minutes and came back to consciousness with her head on Nikolai's shoulder and his arm around her. She did not move for a moment. She was aware of the warmth of him, the specific quality of his shoulder. She was aware of the sound of the plane and the gray morning light through the window, and the fact that this was the most rested she'd felt since before Zurich. She sat up. He looked at her. Good morning, he said, the first time he had said those words to her in anything other than a practical context. They landed differently. Good morning, she said. Her voice had the quality of recent sleep. She watched him register this. Your father is at a safe house in Matino, he said. Andrei's team has him. He's unhappy about the coffee. She exhaled. That sounds like him. He's asked for you approximately 7 times. When we land, she said. Yes, he paused. Sofia. He said her name with the weight it had been accumulating for 2 months. Last night, the photograph, the decision you made in the car. Don't, she said. I want to. I know what you want to say. She held his gaze. You want to say that I did the right thing, that you were. She stopped. It was 10 seconds of fear, Nikolai. I had 10 seconds of it and I put it away and I acted correctly. I don't need you to tell me that. I know you don't need it, he said. I want to give it anyway. She looked at him. You chose not to run, he said, toward something that was designed to make you run. That, he paused, that is not a small thing. She held his gaze. It wasn't difficult, she said. It was more difficult than you're allowing. For approximately 10 seconds, she said. 10 seconds of a gun at your father's head is not a trivial 10 seconds. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because it was true, I thought about it, going back alone. I thought about it because my father, for all his failures, is the only parent I have left. Because the person who killed my mother is the same person who put a gun to his head. Because, she stopped. Because he is the man who sold me, and I have not stopped loving him. And those 2 things coexist in me, and I have no idea what to do with that except to know it. Nikolai was very still. And I did not go, she said, because going would have been what Marek designed, and because leaving you would have been not a price I'm willing to pay for anyone. She looked at him steadily. Even my father. You have never said that before, he said quietly. Specifically that. No, she agreed. I'm saying it now. He held her gaze. Sofia. Nikolai, she tilted her head slightly. What do you want to say? He was quiet for a moment. I want to say that I would have gone back for him, he said. Your father, if you had asked me. He held her gaze. I want you to know that. She looked at him. That is the most unexpectedly kind thing you have said to me. It is not kindness, he said. It is the specific result of the fact that what matters to you has become what matters to me. That is not something I planned. He held her gaze. It is simply what happened. She looked at him for a long, quiet moment. I know, she said. She turned back to the Petrov document. She could feel him looking at her for a long time before he turned back to his own work. She was smiling again. She allowed it again. Chapter 8, PWTR. The safe house in Matino was a flat on the 6th floor of an ordinary building. Her father was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee he had apparently judged unacceptable. He looked up when she came through the door and did something she had not seen him do in years. He stood up very quickly and crossed the kitchen and held her. She let him hold her for a moment. Then she stepped back. Sit down, she said. He sat. He looked at Nikolai, who had come in behind her. Pyotr Volkov looked at Nikolai for a long moment. You sent people to my house, he said to Nikolai. Yes, Nikolai said. In time. In time. Her father nodded. Thank you, he said. It cost him something. Nikolai inclined his head. I'll leave you, he said to Sofia and moved toward the sitting room. She sat across the table from her father. Tell me, he said. What do you know, she said, about my mother, about her family? The specific quality of silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. Papochka, she said quietly, I know about the Zurich account. I know about the 1985 structure. I know that her death was not an accident. She held his gaze. What did you know? He looked at his coffee cup for a long time. She told me, he said, when she was pregnant with you, that there was something from her father, a financial matter she needed to resolve. He paused. She said it was complicated. She said she was handling it. He paused again. I asked once when you were 5 or 6 whether she had resolved it. She said yes. His voice had the quality of a man who has been carrying a very specific guilt for a very long time. I believed her because I wanted to believe her. Did you know the account existed? No, I didn't know the specifics. I knew there was something from her father's business. She never told me the amounts. He looked up. If I had known. What would you have done? He looked at her. I would have tried to help her close it, he said. I would have. He stopped. I was not in those years the man I should have been in many respects, but I would have done that. She believed him, which was its own kind of painful. The night she died, she said. What do you know about it? I know what the report said, he said. I know, he stopped. I always thought the driver who left, I always thought that was, he stopped again. But I had no proof and I had a 12-year-old daughter and I made the choice that there was nothing I could do with suspicion. Against people like Marek. I didn't know his name then. He looked at his hands. I suspected someone. I never had a name. She sat with this for a long moment. You should have told me, she said. You were 12, he said. I grew up. Yes, he looked at her. You grew up very fast, too fast. I watched you grow up and I thought when you are older. And then you were older and I thought when it is relevant. And then it became relevant, but I had made so many other mistakes by then that he stopped. I did not know how to add this one. She looked at him for a long time. I'm not angry, she said. I was briefly a few days ago. I'm not anymore. She paused. I am going to need time to put all of this together in a form I can live with. She held his gaze. But I need you to know the account is closed. My mother's dissolution request was completed last week. The money is going to a children's hospital in Genoa, what she wanted. She paused. I finished it. Something happened in her father's face that was very large and very quiet. Sofia, he said. His voice was broken. I know, she said. She reached across the table and covered his hands with hers. They sat like that for a while. Chapter 9. The Debt. Later, she found Nikolai in the sitting room with the Petrov document open on the table. She sat across from him. "The original debt," she said. He looked up. "My father's debt, the 4 million. She held his gaze. "Marek is finished or close to it. The account is dissolved. The consolidation is recovering. Your organization survives this." She paused. "The original debt, what happens to it?" He held her gaze steadily. "It was discharged by the marriage arrangement." "I know what it was discharged by," she said. "I am asking what you intend for it now." He was quiet for a moment. "Your father's debt is not a thing that exists in any meaningful sense for me at this point," he said carefully. "That is not the same as forgiving it." "Sofia, I need you to forgive it," she said. "Formally, legally, whatever mechanism exists in your world for that." She held his gaze. "Not for him, for me, because I need the beginning of this to not be a debt anymore. I need the foundation of this to be clean." He looked at her for a long, still moment. "All right," he said. "You'll do it." "Yes." Just like that. "It was never about the debt," he said. "It was never about the money." He paused. "I want you to know that the thing between us has never, not once, been contingent on the debt. The debt was a mechanism. It was the door, not the room." She held his gaze. "I know," she said. "I still need the door removed." "Then I'll remove it." She nodded. "Thank you." He looked at her. "Sofia." His voice had the specific weight of the full name delivery. "There is something I want to ask you." She waited. "Not today," he said. "Not in a safe house kitchen while your father sleeps in the next room." He held her gaze. "But soon, when this is done, I want to ask you something." She looked at him for a long moment. "All right," she said. "Soon," he said. "Soon," she agreed. She picked up the Petrov document. "Now, this restructuring proposal. I've been through it twice. Come and look at Article 3. He came. They worked. Chapter 10. What Sofia found in the document. Article 3 of Marek's proposed restructuring was, on its surface, a standard renegotiation of transit agreements through the Baltic port of Riga. She read it the way she read the housing contracts in Meshchansky, with the attention of someone looking for the thing that didn't belong. She found it in the third subsection of Article 3, paragraph 7. "This clause," she said, pointing. Nikolai leaned over her shoulder. "It defines associated party to include any individual with direct familial connection to the primary signatories." Nikolai read it. "It's a standard." "It isn't," she said. "Read what it qualifies. The liability transfer provision in Article 6. If the associated party definition expands liability transfer to familial connections, and Petrov signs this document, then any legal action against the consolidated organization can be brought against Alexei Petrov personally." Nikolai went still. "His son," she said. "This document, if Petrov signs it, makes his son legally liable for the organization's actions." She looked up at him. "Marek didn't only send someone to put a gun to Alexei's head. He also sent a document designed to make Alexei legally vulnerable for the rest of his life." Nikolai's face had the controlled fury quality. "He was going to sign it," Sofia said. "3 weeks ago, before the attack, Petrov was going to sign this." "I know." "He didn't because of the consolidation issues." She looked at the document. "Marek is trying to destroy the consolidation from 3 directions simultaneously." She paused. "Which means he is significantly more afraid of the consolidation than we thought." "Yes." "Why?" Nikolai looked at the document, then at her. "Because the consolidation doesn't only control market territory," he said slowly. "It creates a legal structure, a joint holding entity registered in 3 jurisdictions, an entity that would have the standing to bring a formal legal action in European court." He paused. "Against an organization like Marek's." "He's afraid of a lawsuit," she said. "He's afraid of legitimacy." He held her gaze. "So this is about more than territory." "Everything Marek has done," Nikolai said carefully, has been about preventing the creation of something he can't operate outside of. He held her gaze. Which means the consolidation needs to happen, she said. Not just for the market control, for the legal entity. She paused. I need to look at the formation documents for the consolidated entity, because if the structure is designed correctly, it becomes a weapon, Nikolai said quietly. It becomes a tool, she said precisely. A legal tool with standing in European courts. She held his gaze, which is considerably more durable than any other kind. He was looking at her with the full, unmanaged, specifically her expression. You are not a legal aid lawyer, he said. Or you are not only that. I am exactly that, she said. The difference is that I'm looking at this with the same eyes I use for a housing dispute in Meshchansky. She picked up her pen. She had a great deal of work to do. Chapter 11. The Trap SBRINGS Shut. 11 days. She reviewed the formation documents. She found 7 structural vulnerabilities in the existing draft. She fixed them. She also built in a provision that Merck's lawyers would not be expecting. A whistleblower protection clause in the consolidated entity's formation documents that, if triggered, would give any individual inside Merck's organization legal immunity in exchange for documented testimony about his Baltic operations. It was an invitation, wrapped in a legal document. She showed it to Nikolai on the 8th day. He read it twice. Then he looked at her with the expression that had become, over 2 months, the one she most wanted to see. This is, he said, the most elegant thing I have ever seen. It's a standard whistleblower provision, she said. It is specifically not a standard whistleblower provision, he said. It is a provision designed to appeal to a very specific psychological profile, someone inside Merck's organization who is frightened, who has been looking for a way out. Yes, she said. You are thinking of Vasin, he said. I am thinking of every Vasin in Merck's organization, she said. I am opening the door. Nikolai held her gaze for a long, still moment. I have been thinking, he said slowly, about what kind of organization exists after this. He paused. I want to build one that you could work in. She looked at him. What do you mean by that? I want you to be the person who does what you have been doing, officially, as part of what we build. She was very still. You're asking me to help run a criminal empire, she said. I'm asking you to help change what a criminal empire looks like, he said. From the inside. He held her gaze steadily. As a partner, in the most functional sense of that word. She looked at him for a long moment. Let me finish this first, she said. Then we talk. All right, he said. She went back to work. Chapter 12. Irina. Irina Volkova came to the house on the 9th day. Sit down, Sofia said. Irina sat. I want to, she stopped. What I did with Petrov, the recording, I should have. You should have told Nikolai what you were doing, Sofia said. Yes. But the outcome was correct. She held Irina's gaze. It's a complicated position, acting correctly through an incorrect process. I'm not criticizing, Sofia said. I'm describing the situation as I see it. She paused. You are good at what you do. I want to know if you're willing to continue, formally, with cover. Irina stared at her. You are offering me. I am asking whether you're willing to formalize an arrangement, Sofia said, with specific protections, legal standing within the structure we're building. Irina looked at her for a long moment. You are not what I expected, she said. People keep saying that. Tell me, Sofia said, about the Riga channels. Do you have information about the specific routing through the Daugava transit point? Irina blinked, then slowly she almost smiled. Yes, she said. Good, Sofia picked up her pen. Tell me. Chapter 13, the 13th day. On the 13th day, the consolidation was signed. In Helsinki, in a room that was legally registered as a cultural foundation. Sofia sat at the table. Grigory Petrov sat across from it. Alexei Petrov, out of hospital 11 days earlier than the surgeons had expected, sat beside his father. The signing took 20 minutes. When the last signature was placed, Grigory Petrov looked across the table at her. "You drafted this," he said. It was not a question. "Substantially," she said. "The whistleblower provision," he said. "Yes." Grigory looked at the document for a moment, then at his son beside him. "My son," Grigory said to Sofia, "when he is recovered, would like to redesign one of our St. Petersburg properties." He paused. "He says, he told me, last week in the hospital, he says he wants to design it properly." He held her gaze. "I told him yes." She held his gaze. "Good," she said. "He should." Grigory Petrov smiled. A real one, full, the first she'd seen from him. He raised his glass. Chapter 14. Amerique. The move against Marek came on the 15th day. It came from the whistleblower provision. From the door that Sofia had opened in the formation documents, and which had been found within 48 hours of the consolidations filing by a woman in Marek's Riga operation. Her name was Dasha. She was 31. She had been brought into Marek's organization through pressure applied to something she couldn't protect. She had documentation. Extensive, organized, coherent documentation of Marek's Baltic routing, the money movements, the specific channel that connected his operation to 3 documented criminal acts in 2 European jurisdictions. She submitted it through the legal entity's formal whistleblower channel, with a request for the immunity protection the provision offered. Sofia processed the filing personally. "She was waiting," Sofia said, sitting across from Nikolai in the study on the evening of the 15th day. "Yes." She was inside his organization for 2 years, filing evidence, waiting for a legal mechanism that would protect her. She held his gaze. The provision worked in 48 hours. He was watching her with the full expression. "Yes." "What happens to Dasha?" "She has immunity," he said. "Under the terms of the provision you wrote, she is protected." "I want her to stay protected," Sofia said. "Not just legally, physically." "Andrei is handling it." She paused, and Marek himself. "The documentation Dasha provided is currently in the hands of the European Financial Crimes Authority," he said. "They have been building a case for 3 years. What Dasha gave them is the piece they were missing." A pause. "Marek will be arrested within the week." She sat with this for a moment. "My mother," she said quietly. He held her gaze. "She tried to close the account in 1999 and he had her killed." She paused. "He is going to prison because a woman in Riga filed a legal document." She held his gaze. "I am not sure how I feel about that." "How do you feel about it?" She thought about it honestly. "I feel that it is appropriate," she said finally. "That the mechanism of it, the legal mechanism, is appropriate." "The alternative was available," he said quietly. "I know," she said. "I chose this one." He held her gaze. "Yes, you did." He reached across the desk and covered her hand with his, said nothing. The gesture was its own complete sentence. Chapter 15. The question. He asked her on the evening of the 17th day. In the kitchen, where she had been making tea at 9 in the evening. He came into the kitchen while she was waiting for the kettle. "Tea," she said. "No," he said. She looked at him for a moment. "Sofia," he said. "Nikolai," she said. He crossed the kitchen, stopped in front of her. "I told you soon," he said. "Yes." "This is soon." "Yes," she said, "it is." He held her gaze. "I know the terms of this marriage," he said. "I know how it began." He held her gaze. "I need you to know that I see the difference." "I know you do," she said. "What I want to ask you is this." He paused. "Not a different arrangement, not a renegotiation." He held her gaze. "Whether you would stay in this house, in this life with me, not as a debt resolved or a function fulfilled." As he stopped. "As what?" She said quietly. "As mine," he said, "and I as yours." He held her gaze. "Those are the only terms I have left to offer." The kettle finished. She turned off the kettle. She turned back to him. She reached up and took his face in her hands. and looked at him for the length of time required to be sure she was seeing him all the way through. "Yes," she said. He closed his eyes for exactly 2 seconds, then he opened them. "Yes," he repeated. "Yes," she said again, because it was worth saying twice. He kissed her, complete and warm and specifically theirs, in the kitchen with the kettle and the winter outside, and the house around them quiet. Chapter 16. The morning THATFOLLOWD. She woke to snow. She lay in the warmth of the bed and looked at the ceiling and listened to the silence that was not silence. She turned her head. Nikolai was asleep, which she had not seen before. She looked at him for a long time. Then she got up, she dressed, she laced her running shoes. She ran her 6 kilometers. She ran them in the new snow. She ran back through the gates as the snow was beginning again. She stood outside the rear entrance for a moment and looked up at the house. Her house, her life, her choice. She went inside. Her father appeared in the kitchen doorway 3 minutes later. "Coffee," he said. "There," she said. He sat. She sat. They drank their coffee in the kitchen with the snow falling outside. At 7:15, Nikolai came downstairs. He looked at her across the kitchen. Then he looked at her father, who was on his second coffee and had picked up a newspaper. "Good morning," Nikolai said. "Coffee," her father said, gesturing. Nikolai poured coffee. He sat at the third side of the table. "Nikolai," she said. He looked at her. "The offer you made," she said. "The formal role in the structure." He held her gaze. "I'll do it," she said, "on specific terms." "Tell me the terms," he said. "I keep the legal aid work, part-time, enough to maintain the cases that matter." "Agreed." The whistleblower provision is not a one-time mechanism. It becomes a standing function. Any person inside any affiliated organization who wants a door, there is a door. "Agreed." "And I report to no one," she said. "I advise, I build, I do what I do, but I am not anyone's subordinate." She held his gaze. "I answer to myself." He held her gaze for a moment. "You answer to yourself," he said, "and occasionally to me." She considered this. "Occasionally," she said, "depending on the context." Her father turned a page of the newspaper. "Agreed," Nikolai said. "Then we have a deal," she said. He looked at her with the expression she was keeping. "We have a deal," he said. Her father turned a page of the newspaper. The snow fell outside. The coffee was hot. The morning continued. And in Vilnius, on the same morning, at 6:47, a man named Vadim Marek was arrested at his residence by a European Financial Crimes Authority task force operating on a warrant issued from 3 jurisdictions simultaneously. The warrant cited financial crimes, conspiracy, and 18 specific acts, documented in the submission made through the whistleblower provision of the Sokolov-Petrov consolidated entity. He was taken without resistance. He said nothing. In the car on the way to the holding facility, he looked out the window at the Lithuanian winter, and he understood, with the precision of a man who had spent 40 years building an empire out of other people's vulnerabilities, that he had made a single fatal miscalculation. He had assumed that the woman was a vulnerability. He had not understood that she was the weapon. End of part 4. The Price of Love, concluded. Cliffhanger, Marek is arrested. The consolidation is signed. The account is closed. The war is over, or the first war is over. But in the specific world that Sofia and Nikolai inhabit, endings are rarely clean, and the arrest of Vadim Marek has left a fractured organization, a power vacuum in the Baltic, and 3 parties with legitimate claims on what he controlled. And from inside the fractured pieces of Marek's organization, something is moving. Someone who knew Marek better than anyone has begun to move, and the first indication of it is an envelope that arrives at the Sokolov estate addressed not to Nikolai, not to Sofia, to Alina Volkov's daughter, containing a single item, a photograph of Sofia's mother, alive, dated 2019, 18 years after the accident. Part 5. The woman who didn't die, The most devastating truth of all surfaces. Sofia's understanding of her own history shatters completely. Nikolai faces the possibility that what he knows and what he withheld may be two very different things. The BRATVA'S Ruin. A series by author. Part 4 of 10.